what is your limiting belief? What is the thing that you think about yourself? Maybe your parents or your mother or your father taught you to think that way about yourself. Maybe you went through a horrible breakup and that person made you feel unworthy. Maybe you've had a bunch of setbacks in your life and that's what gave you that limiting belief. But what is your limiting belief? Because today, what we're going to do today is we're going to take it a step further. Now that you've identified your limiting belief, we're going to look at what is it costing you to choose to repeat it. Because remember the quote I started with, you have a choice right now. You get to repeat the things you've always done, or you can evolve them and become more deliberate. Let's talk about the cost of that limiting belief. Angie, why is it so easy to fill out limiting beliefs, but almost paralyzing to figure out an alternative, think this, not that? How many of you are having trouble with this? It's very easy to see where you doubt yourself, but it's super hard to come up with the alternative thought that you're going to substitute. Well, the reason why it's hard is because you actually believe these thoughts. And these thoughts have become patterns, and they've become habits, and they've become so prevalent in your life that they're almost like the co-host of your life. If you think about it, you are the star of your life. But if the supporting actor is a limiting belief that constantly tells you that you're not good enough, or that you're not worthy, or that you'll never succeed, then it's no wonder that you believe it, because the co-star of your life is your limiting beliefs. And so it's not easy to change your limiting beliefs, but it is simple. And it begins with you identifying them and then substituting them. So the most, I think, effective way of beginning the process of teaching yourself how to identify a limiting belief and then come up with your own substitute positive belief as a way to change the negative pattern in your mind is to use the power of objectivity. So write down all your limiting beliefs. And I'm going to go through this in detail in just a second. Write down all your limiting beliefs. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. Nothing works out for me. Nobody's going to love me. Whatever the fuck it is that you think that's bringing you down. And then you can ask yourself this. What would Mel say? If Mel were sitting here across from me, what would Mel say? Another thing you can do, you can write the opposite of what you're thinking. And you may not believe it. It's okay. Because what we're doing is training you in a new pattern. And one of the things that Angie asked is she wanted to know, what were my limiting beliefs? So yesterday we sent out this workbook, the Best Decade Ever Toolkit. It's in your email. If you go to the Facebook group, Best Decade Ever with Mel Robbins, it's also listed on the files. You'll find the download for this. Check your junk email if you didn't get it. But so my limiting beliefs. So I want to have the #1 talk show of the decade. And the #1 talk show of the decade right now seems to be Ellen. And so it's interesting because a lot of my limiting beliefs, I think, are provoked by the fact that I'm the newcomer in a space that I have huge dreams of making a mark in and dominating. So one of my limiting beliefs is someone's already done it. How many of you have that one? My dream has already been done. So my substitute thought, because this feels kind of true, doesn't it? Somebody's already done it. And then my substitute thought, the think this, not that, is, well, they haven't done it my way yet. It hasn't been done by me yet. Do you see what I mean? So somebody else has done it. Okay, I get it. It hasn't been done by me yet. It'll never happen. It'll never happen. How many of you have that limiting belief? It'll never happen. My substitute belief, it hasn't happened yet. So I'm acknowledging that it hasn't happened, but I'm adding on the yet as a way to keep my mind in the positive. It didn't happen last time, so it's not going to happen this time. How many of you have that one? Yeah. This is what I say. I wasn't ready then. I'm ready now. Because it didn't happen last time because I didn't know everything I know now. I'm ready now. I don't deserve it. How many of you have this limiting belief? I don't deserve it. My thought is, if I work hard, I'll earn it. Do you see that? So it flips from a statement where I'm bashing my self-worth, I don't deserve it, to a statement about putting in the effort. If I work hard, I'll earn it. Oh, I've got this story that I'm the bad news bears, that I'm literally like the person with the worst equipment, and I'm the underdog, and I'm underfunded, and why does it have to be so hard? And why does it seem so much easier for everybody else? And blah, 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 blah. And I flip that into, I love being underestimated, and I love being the underdog. In a very weird way, as much as it exhausts me, it also empowers me. Here's a specific limiting belief. How the fuck am I going to compete with Ellen? I can't compete with Ellen. Especially when she's been at it for 20 years. She has the budget of God and an army of people that are supporting her. I mean, there was something she did announced yesterday on social media that I was so like, oh, of course. And I was so jealous. She announced a partnership with Starbucks where she's encouraging people to pay for somebody's coffee using the Starbucks app behind them in line. And then take a video of it and upload it. And they're going to bring them on the show. And I was like, oh, will I ever get there? Will I ever get to do cool stuff like that? And the answer is yeah. She proves it's possible. And also, I can take the 10 years and be like, and in 20 years, I won't even recognize the cool stuff I'll be able to do if I put in the work. So take that jealousy or somebody else or whatever and say it proves it's possible. Now put in the work. So those are some of my limiting beliefs, and that's how you can do it. And by the way, if you can't do that exercise successfully on your own, post in the Facebook group and tell people this is your limiting belief. Can somebody help you come up with a substitute positive belief so that you can think this, not that? Ask somebody in your life to help you. And then what you do is when you find yourself going down the route of that negative thought, it'll never happen. You're going to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, use the 5-second rule to interrupt the negative belief. And then you are going to insert the positive belief. It hasn't happened yet. That's it. Just keep going.
What about when someone can't realize or identify their own negative feelings? Someone that has been conditioned to live in negative feelings and believes that that's normal. This question comes from Basso Anna Denegada.
It is your normal. You're right. It's a really, first of all, I'm sorry that that's been your experience of life, because that really stinks and it doesn't have to be that way. But here's where I want you to go. What's interesting about what you said is the fact that these feelings are normal, okay? Normal just means you're used to them, but you don't have to live with them. So even though you're so used to these negative feelings and these feelings of doubt, you still don't like them. You still have the ability to stop that. So I want you to think of a moment in time when you were really happy. Like, it could be a memory from being little, it could be something that you dream of doing. And I want you to come up with something really specific about that moment, okay? Like, think about what you were wearing, or think about the blue sky. That is going to be what I call your anchor thought. Every time from this moment forward that you wake up or you find yourself drifting to those normal feelings of, I'm a loser, I'm worthless, I'm never going to find love. They may be things that you're used to thinking, but that doesn't matter, because you can change them. The second that you feel that, you've drifted over into that thought. And I keep coming over here because when you start using the rule, you're going to start to literally feel which part of your mind you're using. The worries kind of happen here. I want you to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I want you to insert this vision of yourself where you felt really good. And if you can't think of one, invent one. How would you feel if you were in love? How would you feel if you loved yourself? How would you feel if you did that thing that you're scared of, that you keep talking yourself out of? That's your anchor thought. Now, when you first start using the rule, particularly when you're breaking a habit of thinking negative thoughts, when you first start doing it, you may need to use the 5-second rule 73 times in one day. That's okay. I had to do it like that when I was first using the rule to cure myself of anxiety. When I would start to worry about anything, I'd start to worry about, my kids, or I'd start to worry about money, and I'd feel my thoughts drift, and then I'd start to feel my heart race. I would stabilize my thoughts, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'd activate my prefrontal cortex, lower the worries, on the other side, and then I would start to think about something that actually made me feel really calm or excited. That is the battle of your mind. And, the other thing about normal that I just want to say is that the reason why it feels normal to doubt yourself and to have low self-worth is because you've thought this so long. It's become a pattern, just like chewing your nails becomes a pattern of behavior that you don't think about. Well, the cool thing is that based on science, you can actually change any pattern, even a thinking one. So use the 5-second rule. Every single time you catch yourself thinking the nasty stuff, and then activate your prefrontal cortex and force yourself to think something positive.
If you think about it, we live in the most amazing moment in time. So that thing that you have up here, whatever it may be, you want to use healthy eating to cure your diabetes, you want to figure out how to take care of the elders and start a new hospice center, you want to move to Africa and build a school, guess what? You could walk into a bookstore right now and buy at least 10 books written by credentialed experts on how the hell you do it. You could Google it, and you could probably find at least, 1,000 blogs documenting the step-by-step transformation that somebody else is already doing. You can find anybody online and cyberstalk them. You can just walk in their footsteps and let them, just use the science of drafting. Follow what everyone else has done, because somebody else is already doing it. So why don't you have what you want? When you have all the information that you need, you have the contacts that you need, there are probably free tools online that allow you to start a business or join a group or do whatever the heck you want. It all comes down to one word. Shut the front door. You know what I'm talking about? The F-bomb. It's everywhere. You hear it all the time, and I honestly don't understand what the appeal is of the word. I mean, you don't sound smart when you say it. And it's really not expressing how you really feel. It's sort of a cheap, shot to take. And of course, I'm talking about the word fine. How you doing? Oh, I'm fine. Oh, really? You are? Dragging around those extra 40 pounds? You're fine? Feeling like roommates with your spouse? And you're fine? You haven't had sex in 4 months? You're fine? Really? I don't think so. But see, here's the deal with saying that you're fine. It's actually genius. Because if you're fine, you don't have to do anything about it. But when you think about this word fine, it just makes me so angry. I mean, here we are at a conference about being alive, and you're going to describe the experience of being alive as fine? What a flimsy and feeble word. If you're crappy, say you're crappy. If you're amazing, say you're amazing. Tell the truth. And this not only goes for the social construct, I don't want to burden you with the fact that I hate my life, or, hey, I'm amazing, but that would make you feel terrible. The bigger issue with fine is that you say it to yourself. That thing that you want, I guarantee you, you've convinced yourself that you're fine not having it. That's why you're not pushing yourself. It's the areas in your life where you've given up, where you've said, oh, I'm fine. My mom's never going to change, so I just can't have that conversation. I'm fine. We got to wait until the kids graduate before we get divorced, so we'll just sleep in separate bedrooms. I'm fine. I lost my job. I can barely pay my bills, but whatever. It's hard to get a job. And, one of the reasons why this word also just annoys me so much is scientists have calculated, oh yeah, I'm coming down. Scientists have calculated The odds of you being born. That's right. They've crunched the numbers. I see you up there. They've crunched the numbers on you. Yeah, no, you guys standing up, you want to sit down for this. They've crunched the numbers on you being born. And they took into account all of the wars and the natural disasters and the dinosaurs and everything else. And do you realize that the odds of you, yeah, right here, put your computer away, stand up for me, Doug. So the odds of Doug here, turn around, say hi to everybody. The odds, of Doug being born at the moment in time he was born to the parents you were born to with the DNA structure that you have, 1 in 400 trillion. Isn't that amazing?
I'm so lucky.
Yes. You're not fine, you're fantastic. You have life-changing ideas for a reason, and it's not to torture yourself. Thank you. Thank you, Doug. And you know, Christine was right when she said all of you could be on stage, because all of you, we're all in this category. 1 in 400 trillion. All day long, you have ideas that could change your life, that could change the world, that could change the way that you feel. And what do you do with them? Nothing.
What is your limiting belief? What is the thing that you think about yourself? Maybe your parents or your mother or your father taught you to think that way about yourself. Maybe you went through a horrible breakup and that person made you feel unworthy. Maybe you've had a bunch of setbacks in your life and that's what gave you that limiting belief. But what is your limiting belief? Because today, what we're going to do today is we're going to take it a step further. Now that you've identified your limiting belief, we're going to look at what is it costing you to choose to repeat it. Because remember the quote I started with. You have a choice right now. You get to repeat the things you've always done, or you can evolve them and become more deliberate. Let's talk about the cost of that limiting belief. I'm going to go first. So write down your limiting belief. I see a lot of, I'm not good enough. My mental health is holding me back. I can't run a successful business. I'm lazy and I can't do anything. I'm not healthy enough. Money is the issue. I'm scared to fail. What is the limiting belief that you have? I'm certain it has something to do with not being enough. Once you've written that down, you're afraid of failure. You don't deserve success, all that kind of stuff. I don't know how to start. These are excellent. You're doing an excellent job. The first step to moving from that default into getting deliberate is actually seeing it. So seeing it is fantastic because now we can start to understand that, whoa, this got programmed in. It's my default mode. I want to get rid of it. How do we get rid of it? Well, let's first identify why you want to. Let's take a hard look at the cost of having this limiting belief. So in order to figure out the cost of having the limiting belief, what's my limiting belief? That I'm not a good person. That's my limiting belief. That I am not a good person. That you don't think I'm a good person. That I don't think I'm a good person. And here's what you're going to do in order to identify the cost, okay? You're going to ask yourself 3 questions, and they're very simple. What is this limiting belief in my case that I'm not a good person? What does it cost me in my past to think this way? What is it costing me in this present moment to think that I'm not a good person? And here's the kicker. If I don't evolve this, if I don't get deliberate, what is it going to cost me in the future to continue to think that I'm not a good person? So in the past, thinking that I'm not a good person, it did a bunch of things. First of all, it made me very sad. Secondly, it made me a liar because I assumed that I wasn't good enough and I'm not a good person, so I got to pretend to be somebody else. It also made me cheat on people because I didn't think I deserved love. And it also, by believing that I wasn't a good person, it somehow justified the bad behavior. I mean, if I'm a bad person, then I do bad things, right? What does it cost me in the present to believe that I'm not a good person? Well, it cost me a lot of joy. It costs me connection in friendships because I'm constantly questioning whether or not people actually like me for me. It makes me second guess myself and whether or not I deserve the success. And what does it cost me in the future? It's going to cost me everything. If I continue to repeat this pattern and I continue to allow myself to default to believing that I'm not a good person, I will never be fully happy. I will never be fully present. I probably will not be successful when we launch this new daytime talk show in the fall. And so I got a choice to make, and I want to get rid of this because I can see what allowing myself to believe that I'm not a good person is costing me. This exercise of identifying your limiting belief and then seeing what it's cost you in your past, your present, and your future is so important for you to do that I want to give you another example. So to really, really drive it home, okay? And so I want to bring in my husband. Why don't you scoot on this? I don't know if you can lean in on that thing. You sit on this chair. I'm going to bring in my husband, Christopher Robbins. Yes, if you've ever been a fan of Winnie the Pooh, his name is Christopher Robbins. And Chris is going to go through this exercise too. And I think it's important for we're sharing a chair here, and so we're like really close. I think it's important for you guys to know that Chris is one of the partners in our media company. He's our CFO, and he's also the founder of a men's retreat called Soul Degree. And he's a yoga instructor and president of the Booster Club. So this is a guy that's like really accomplished and super amazing. So with that context, founder of Soul Degree, what's your limiting belief?
Well, of course, it would be appropriate that I think forever it's just been that I'm not good enough, I think that's it, succinctly, that I'm not living up. And certainly in the past, it's been all around the decisions I've made career-wise, never thinking that I was in fact good enough, which just took away from, I suppose, all the joy that I could have had.
Were you really sad when you were little?
Yeah, I think I was just down and out, probably feeling alone, and like the decisions I had made along the path were not the right ones, and then that subsequently not performing, and or at least not performing to my own expectation.
So how has not feeling good enough? I can see how it would make you feel sad, especially, there's so much pressure on men to succeed, feeling like you weren't good enough in your career, blah, blah, blah. Even ski racing, because you grew up as a kid ski racing. How did feeling not good enough impact the way you raced?
I probably just could have skied a lot better than even I did because I was constantly thinking it wasn't good enough.
And now what about in the present? What is the default belief that you're not good? Is it like, how is it still in your life in this moment? Because here's the thing about a limiting belief, guys, is that everybody will look at you on the outside and they'll be convinced you don't have it. They'll be shocked that you believe that about yourself. And that's why it's important for you to be honest with yourself about what your limiting belief is, because it's something you are doing to yourself. So what is the belief that you're not good enough? How is that impacting your life right now, Chris?
Probably has everything to do with just being the point parent. As much as I love being the point parent and having the time with the kids that I have, given your own schedule.
Let me explain what that means. So Chris and I Chris and I, because of the amount of work that I use, Chris is the one that is home more often. He's the one that is really in charge of what's going on with the kids. He has been home for these last 3 to 4 years, playing a huge role in the back end of our company. But the primary role is the parent. And traditionally, at least in the United States, it's the woman that does that. And so it's been, I think, a very fulfilling yet confronting thing for Chris to be playing that role in, am I saying this correctly?
Totally.
Just to bring everybody up to speed?
Just embracing the idea that me being the one at home handling the lion's share of the things at home are, of course, consistent with my negative belief that that's not good enough, that's not being supportive enough.
Is it also with success? Like that's not enough
Yeah,
in terms
it's
of your
not-
own career, even though you
Yeah, I
founded a
think
men's retreat?
Well,
Seriously.
you mean,
Well, you run Soul Degree, you run the booster club for the high school, you teach yoga classes, you are a CFO, and it's still not enough. And here's the thing that's so interesting, everybody. I'm going to ask Chris a question he doesn't know I'm going to ask him. If you could go back and do something different these last 3 or 4 years and actually go and work and build a business that's solely your own and not be around, and I mean, would you trade the years that you've had with our kids, the last 3 years, or for something else?
no, definitely not.
Well, see, then that's the thing that's crazy. Is here you're sitting here torturing yourself saying, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, it's not enough, it's not enough. But given the option, if we could wave a magic wand and change everything, and the circumstances would be different, but you had to trade the time that you had with our kids, would you do it? The answer is no. So here's the thing that's interesting, and I'm so happy that you admitted to that, because it points out the fact that your default thinking isn't logical. It's just a habit. It's something you've been doing for so long that you don't even realize it. And even though it doesn't serve you, and even though, like Chris just said, he would never change a thing, and yet he still thinks it's not enough. That to me means that there is some automation here that's going on in your brain where it's set on default. Oh, I got to just think I'm not enough. I got to think I'm not enough. I got to think I'm not enough. You know? Well, here's the bigger question. If you allow this default mode to stay programmed in your brain, how is that going to impact your future? Particularly if you think about things like your aspirations for Soul Degree, the men's retreat that you run.
I think that if it perpetuates, then I'm obviously my own impediment to what I want it to be. You know, if I'm constantly in that mindset of it's not enough, I haven't done enough, then how could Soul Degree ever become what it should be?
What do you want it to become?
I think I would love to see it touch as many men's lives.
You're about to cry, I could tell.
Yeah, as possible.
Why do you get choked up?
Just because I know the impact. I've experienced the positive impact that it can have, and it's limitless, I think, in the difference that it could make, regardless even of your age. So
do you see how your limiting belief, the default thinking that you're not enough, will prevent you from?
Oh, totally.
How does it stop you when you think you're not enough? How does it stop you? Like, what are the things that you do when you start getting in that mindset?
Well, it's probably things that you don't do, right? Because if you're not going to be good enough, well, why go do that thing? Whether it's write more or, sort of test the elasticity of what Soul Degree could be also. I mean, it's in a state where there's still so much that we could do to enhance the experience, have it reach more people, which starts with my own. Again, I think part of the limitation is that I've always argued, hey, I'm a shitty marketer. I'm not good at putting the word out, if you will. And even this conversation, talking about something like Soul Degree, is
How many of you can relate to this?
I
That
could
you're
be a
just
lot better at
stopping
that.
yourself, not all the time because of your limiting belief. Like you go to write a blog post about the thing that fills your heart, and you're like, ooh, should I really put this out there? That's your limiting belief. That's your default setting. And you're dead right, Chris, and it's the same thing for me. And the same thing for Mandy. What was yours?
I'll never get there.
I'll never get there. I love that one. I'll never get there.
Yeah.
Because you can feel like just the no matter how hard I try, it's never going to be enough. I'm never going to get there. It's never going to happen. And how that sets you up to just race and race and race and race. And Danielle, what's yours?
But I'm not smart enough.
I'm not smart enough. Yeah, I'm not smart enough to do this. And so if your belief, the default that got programmed a long time ago is I'm not smart enough, then you'll tell yourself, I'm not smart enough to write this blog post. I'm not smart enough to figure this out. I'm not smart enough to build that kind of business. I'm not smart enough to attract the kind of person that I want. And the thing that's scary about default settings, everybody, is that not only are they automated in the default network in your brain, but they're a protection mechanism. By thinking you're not good enough, not smart enough, I'll never get there, not a good person, you actually hold yourself back. And that's one of the reasons why we cling to it. And so if you haven't already, because we're going to wrap up this training and I'm going to tell you what's coming up tomorrow and then we're going to answer questions. If you haven't already,
You got to hear the quote, though, from Nepo today.
Oh, okay.
It's so on point.
See,
to this
soul
topic.
degree right here. So every
It's
morning.
it's so cheesy, but
No,
it's
it's
so
not.
good.
Every morning, Chris and I mostly sometimes. Chris reads from this. This is so tattered. He's been doing it for years. My mom also reads this book every single day. Your mom reads this book every single day. It's a page or two every single day. Mark Nero was fighting cancer when he wrote this, and it's beautiful. So
Nepo.
Mark Nepo. Did I say it wrong? Nemo.
course.
I said Nemo.
But
Finding Nemo.
I'll just read a snippet because it's so on point for January 3rd. That is
Okay.
the 3rd, right, today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each person is born with an unencumbered spot, free of expectation and regret, free of ambition and embarrassment, free of fear and worry, an umbilical spot of grace where we are each first touched by God. It is this spot of grace that issues peace. Psychologists call this spot the psyche, theologians call it the soul, Jung calls it the seat of the unconscious, Hindu masters call it the Atman, Buddhists call it Dharma, Rilke calls it inwardness, Sufis call it Qualb, and Jesus calls it the center of our love. To know the spot of inwardness is to know who we are, not by surface markers of identity, not by where we work, or what we wear, or how we like to be addressed, but by feeling our place in relation to the infinite and by inhabiting it. This is the hard, lifelong task, for the nature of becoming is a constant filming over where we begin, while the nature of being is a constant erosion of what is not essential.
Oh.
Each of us lives in the midst of this ongoing tension, growing tarnished or covered over, only to be worn back to that incorruptible spot of grace at our core.
Well, I would say the one word that came to mind when you were reading that was, let's see if I can find it, not essential. You know what's not essential is your default thinking and your negative belief. And in fact, it is essential that you get rid of it. You're awesome. You don't have to go. I'm gonna keep wrapping.
I am
this.
gonna go.
You are going? Where are you
Bye,
going?
everyone. I'm sure
He's got a blog post to write because now he's gotten rid of his limiting belief. Bye.
See ya.
Okay. So tomorrow, I want you to write your limiting belief in there. And here's another thing. What is it costing you right now? What are the things you're not doing because of that limiting belief? For me, not being a good person, I think it's the thing that keeps me isolating myself. And it also, I can see how, just like Chris was explaining, that his limiting belief has him not doing things like writing more blog posts and putting himself out there. Even though I'm out there, there's, I think, a level to which I'm not because of this belief that I'm not a good person. So I want you to write in the comments what's your limiting belief and what's it costing you right now. What are you not doing because of it? And I want to come back to the opening quote. You have a choice. You're either going to repeat what you're doing or you're going to evolve it. And when you ask yourself these three questions, what is my limiting belief cost me in the past? What's it costing me right now? And what is it going to cost me if I continue to choose to do it? If I continue to choose to be on default? Hopefully, getting in touch with that will help you, give you, motivate you, push you to choose to be deliberate in what you're thinking next. Because tomorrow, what we're going to be talking about is how do you create a deliberate belief, one that you don't believe yet. We're going to teach you how to think this, not that. Because it's essential that you have something to go to for when you catch yourself going to that default. So trust me when I tell you, tomorrow we are going to take you from the, oh my God, I need to stop doing this, and into the mode of, okay, I got this. I can think this, not that. What I want to do now, so that's kind of the end of the training. What I want to do now is I want to spend a little bit extra time out of service to answer some questions and to acknowledge a few of you. And so if you were just here for the snack size training, we'll see you tomorrow. The email is going to go out with this link. We are also going to link to the training about visualization, because we have gotten a load of questions about visualization. The first question that we've gotten, Lisa Ashley wrote, Mel, what if you don't realize your mindset is negative until you feel physical symptoms of stress, tight muscles, shortness of breath? I'd like to be more aware of the triggers and be able to get out of autopilot and make that change. This is so awesome. Okay, so Lisa, you're ahead of the curve. And the reason why I say ahead of the curve is because most of us don't realize that fear and negativity, it actually begins in your body. And it's really interesting that you raise this question, because we did this project with Audible that's coming out in February called Take Control of Your Life. The entire thesis of it is that fear is in your body. And if you learn to read the body signals, you can cut off fear and negative thinking before it even reaches up here. Because your body remembers trauma, your body remembers negative situations, and so your body is trying to signal you that something's up. So one of the things for you, and we're going to get to this later in the program, is for those of you that are asking about, are we going to talk about anxiety? Are we going to talk about triggers? Are we going to talk about PTSD? The answer is yes, 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 yes. You're going to go through a whole day, Lisa, where you're going to identify things that trigger that stress in your body as a way to be able to preempt your thoughts going negative. And so I think it's a really good thing that you have body awareness. For those of you that don't have body awareness, maybe start to pay attention. Do you have stress in your neck and your tension in your shoulders? Do you feel something in your stomach? When your body is doing those things, stop and ask yourself, what is my default set? What is the negative thing I'm thinking right now? And get it out of your body and identify the negative thing that you're thinking. We will get to this, Lisa, I promise, but believe it or not, it's a really good sign that you are aware of the body signals. Do we have another question about visualization?
I got one.
Okay, good. Or anything else that's come up in the comments, Mandy, that you want to throw at me? Because I think a lot of people are really struggling with the limiting belief thing. Go ahead.
Lindsay Haas.
Lindsay, yes?
Is it normal to not be able to visualize or have a really hard time doing it?
Is it normal to not be able to visualize? I think that everything is normal. Truly. Because there's no right way to do life, okay? If you're having a difficult time visualizing a positive future, you're not alone, and there's nothing wrong with you, okay? There's just some work to do, and it's work that you're capable of doing. One thing that you could do if you sit and you think about your dreams, and then you go and you close your eyes and you try to visualize yourself walking into that house that you've always dreamt of, or being in the relationship you've always dreamt of, or looking at your bank account and seeing the savings you've always dreamt of, and you just can't see it. Okay, no problem. You've got some default settings that have really settled in. We can still reprogram and reset your mindset, okay? We can still teach you to be deliberate. It's going to take time, just like everything, but we're going to do it in micro steps. One thing that we could try is let's try the power of objectivity, Lindsay. What I want you to do, if you can't visualize something positive for yourself, pick somebody that you love and visualize the thing that you want for yourself for them. So visualize your mom in that scenario. Visualize your friend in that scenario. Visualize one of your kids in that scenario. Visualize me in that scenario. And so when you see me walking into your dream house or walking into that job and quitting it and walking into that new yoga space because you're building your own studio, and you visualize me and you start to feel happy for me, then I want you to visualize me turning and going, Lindsay, you're next. You're doing this too, and you're doing it with me. Use me as the foil to get you to start to train yourself to visualize positive things and allow me to coach you in your vision and say, you're coming with me. I'm going to be here with you the whole step, okay? Because the power of objectivity works very, very well in lots of other research for decision making. And so I suspect that it will work for visualization too. Mandy, got another one?
I'm looking for limiting belief stuff, but it seems that
Somebody
people
just
are
asked
really-
me, what if I can't identify a limiting belief?
Oh, see, I've got a lot of good ones in here. I haven't. Is that on Instagram?
Somebody just asked me,
Yeah.
what if I can't identify a limiting belief? Then here's what I would say. Oh, paused. I'm going to wait to answer this question because I want to make sure that you hear this. What do you do if you cannot identify the limiting belief? Let's go and look at your actions first, okay? So we're going to work backwards from your actions. If you think about your goals and you think about the things that you need to do, the actions you need to take in order to make your goals a reality. So if your goal is to be healthier and you know that you need to eat better and you need to exercise, but you're not doing it, let's go and look at the excuses. Why aren't you doing it? Yeah, maybe you say you're lazy. Maybe you say you're tired. Maybe you say that you don't have time. But underneath the I don't have time and I am lazy is something else. And it's probably that you think you don't deserve it, or you think that you're not good enough to be healthy, or you think that you're not lovable or worthy of it. So if you have trouble looking at your limiting beliefs, look first at the things that you're not doing. I'm not writing blog posts even though I want to build this business. I'm not working on my website even though I want to build this business. Why? What's the excuse? And then if you go a step beneath the excuse, I'm too tired, I don't have time, I don't know how, what is really the belief you have about yourself that's keeping you from pushing yourself to greatness? You got it? What is that? Because if you go there, I think you'll start to see a theme. All right. Anything else? You have another one you want me to ask?
I actually
feel
have
like
one that I've gotten from a couple of
Okay,
people,
good. Yeah.
And they've just been saying, what the hell is wrong with all of us?
What do you mean?
For
What the hell's
thinking
wrong
this
with
way.
all of us for thinking us this
Yeah,
way?
for thinking these things. What's wrong with all of us?
Okay, first of all, there's nothing wrong with you. Here's my theory, okay? Here's my theory as to how it is that we all got stuck with a negative default network in terms of our limiting beliefs. Human beings require other human beings to take care of them in order to survive. You cannot be born, pop out of the womb, and just make it on your own. You need physical contact. You need other human beings to take care of you. We are hardwired from survival to connect and fit in. We are a pack species, no matter how introverted or shy you may be. And I think that biological, evolutionary fact about survival makes us super in tune to what the other human beings, namely our parents, are doing, because we don't ever want to get kicked out of the pack. That would mean we're in trouble from a survival instinct. And so I think as little kids, in order to keep the peace, in order to fit in order to be loved, we basically are constantly assessing what mom or dad are doing. And then we are judging ourselves and coming up with strategies to survive. So you might have had a parent that was emotionally abusive. You might have had a parent that was an alcoholic. You might have had a mom who was awesome, but stressed, and you were on edge. And so whenever your mom got upset, you started to think something's wrong with me. Whenever your parents fought, you thought something's wrong with me. Whenever your mom got upset with you, you started to get worried that you were doing something wrong. And so instead of, as a 6-year-old, 5-year-old, you don't have the intellectual capacity at that point to go, wow, mom's stressed out. Must be something at work. We all go, something's wrong with me. And so we start to, not because our parents are doing it intentionally, but based on the fact that we need other human beings to take care of us. We need to be connected to a pack. We need to be connected to somebody, our parents, namely. You start to internalize negative messaging as a kid. I'm not worthy. You know, if mom would love me, she would treat me differently. My dad wouldn't yell at me if I were worthy. If only I did something. If I were different, my parents wouldn't fight. If I were different, my dad would be happy. If I were different, my mom wouldn't be so upset. I think that's where they come from. I really do. Do you have anything to add to that?
Nope.
Mandy?
That's actually scientifically proven.
It's scientifically proven?
Yeah, human beings have a need to be seen. And
We have a need to be seen.
It starts at birth because you either are seen or you die.
That's true. Because if your parents are not paying attention to you, you will die. You need to be fed. You need to be protected. You need to be clothed. You can't even walk until you're a year old. Mm-hmm. You can't even crawl or scoot until you're 7, 8 months. You are completely, positively exposed and vulnerable. And so I think all of the default mode that you have is either because somebody in your childhood directly said, you suck, I didn't want you, you're not worthy, or you were directly abused, either emotionally, physically, or sexually, and that left you feeling like you're not good enough or not lovable or not worthy or that people are out to get you. Or you were just trying to fit in. And so you developed ways of thinking in order to not make mom mad. You developed ways of thinking in order to not make dad mad. And that was the default. And here's the thing, it worked when you were little. It worked. That's why you kept doing it. No big deal. It worked. Okay? You made it this far. What did I say the other day? You're the oldest, the wisest, the most experienced you've ever been. Yep. And that means that you have the ability to make a choice at this point to evolve and become more deliberate. The default mode served a purpose when you were little. Now you're an adult, and it's time for you to get deliberate about how you think. And tomorrow, we're going to be talking about how to create a deliberate way of thinking. We're going to teach you how to go from thinking this to thinking that. It's going to change your life. And so make sure that you look out for the email or just check back on YouTube or Facebook because we do the live trainings. And every single morning, the month of January, and you can just catch them on YouTube or Facebook. Or Instagram. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
The only other one that Donna sent me was, how do you help kids identify limiting beliefs?
How do you help kids identify limiting beliefs? Think about it like an inquiry. So remember the coaching that I just gave about identifying the things you're not doing. So ask your kids, what are the things that if they had a little bit more confidence or courage, what would they be doing differently at school? What are some of the things they might try? And then ask them, well, why don't you do it now? What are the things that you think about yourself that make you think that you're not capable of that? You can kind of dig it that way. And, you know, I think just asking a lot of questions and doing a lot of listening. You probably know what your kids' limiting beliefs are. I mean, I know I would like to just crawl inside the heads of Oakley, Kendall, and Sawyer and take a bar of soap and just scrub it right out of there and clean out their thoughts so that that negativity, that questioning, that anxiety, that's so part of being a teenager, isn't it? Because biologically, evolutionary standpoint, when you're a teenager, you go through a process of separating from your family. And guess what pack is the most intense and important pack in your life? It's your peer group. This is also proven by science. And so you go from 0 to 13, making sure that you fit in with your parents and you're not upsetting them, to now, oh my God, my peers are life and death for me, and I got to fit in with them. And so then you come up with a whole nother default way of thinking in order to survive that. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's time to get deliberate. You're an adult. It's time to take control of how you think. If you're a kid who's watching this, you can get deliberate too. You can decide what you want to think about yourself. You can decide who you're going to hang out with so that you feel good about yourself. And when you start realizing that you can be in control of the way that you talk to yourself, your life is going to change.
How do you deal with it when people are part of your limiting belief? Like
how do you deal with it when people are part of your limiting belief?
Someone is giving you the limiting belief, like I'm ugly, I'm overweight, or someone is constantly.
Well, first of all, you should not be around those people. Let's be perfectly clear. If you're around people that tell you that you're ugly, that tell you that you're stupid, that is abuse, and you need to find a way to not be around those people, okay? Second thing I do to put up the psychological force field is I assume that anybody that says something nasty to me is personally in pain. And so telling myself that people are saying that to me only because they're hurting makes me flip it so that it's not about me being ugly. It's not about me being bossy. It's not about me being a certain way. It's about the pain that idiot, I shouldn't say idiot, but you know what I mean. It's about the pain that hurtful person is experiencing, and the fact that it's so awful for them to be in their body that they have to do everything that they can to attack other people. Because it's only in attacking other people that they don't have to stop and be with themselves. A very painful place to be. So empathy always works for me for the psychological force field. But be very clear, those people should not be in your life. And if that person is your mother or your father or a relative that you have to see, or a spouse, you got to have boundaries with it. Hey, you can feel that way, but you can't talk to me like that. You got to start to, what did I say earlier? Ask for what you need. And boundaries are the biggest version of that. You can feel that way. You can't say that to me. And if somebody's repeatedly doing it, you got to find the courage and the support structure to leave.
So the other day, I managed to get to a yoga class 30 minutes early. The reason why that happened was not because I was really organized. It was because my son actually had chorus practice at school, so he had to be at school earlier. So I got to the studio earlier, and class normally starts at 8:45, and I normally get there at 8:44, 8:45, 8:46, right in that zone. This day, a couple days ago, I arrived at like 8:14. And so I go down the stairs to the yoga studio and I get up to the door and it's locked. It's dark. There's no one there. The reason why nobody was there is they weren't even open yet. That's how early I was. Now, here's what happened that really struck me. The first thought that popped in my mind, here I was dressed in yoga gear. I got my yoga mat. I got my little journal because I'm going to be early and I can journal on my mat and be all yogi in the studio. The first thought that popped into my mind is, oh, you should just bail. Don't even go. Go across the street to Pete's and have a cup of coffee. Forget this yoga thing. I don't feel like it. I cannot believe how fast my own mind contaminated my thoughts. And I doubt you understand how often your mind is looking around and talking to you and spotting things that are negative and arguing against the things that you know you want to be doing. I mean, it was just a moment. Walk down the stairs, see that it's dark. I don't think, oh, great, I'm the first one here. That means I'll be the first one in the door. That means I can get the spot by the door in the back of the class that I really like. I didn't think, oh, I could sit here and I could journal right here and just wait. I didn't think, oh, I could make a phone call. I thought, I'll bail on this commitment I made to myself. I'll just bail on it. I'll just, screw it. So why am I telling you this? Because our minds are so negative. I don't care how positive you are, and I'm an incredibly positive person. I don't care how much mindset work you do. You have to continue to do it over and over and over again. It's not that your mind jumps to the negative and constantly sees the problems and the obstacles in front of you. It's that you don't even realize how often it happens and how often it hijacks you and takes you off course. So it's essential that you're paying attention. It's essential that when your mind talks negative smack talk to you, that you smack it back and you say no thanks, or you insert something positive. And, I actually did not intend for this to be like some sort of video to push you to something, but that does remind me that I did an entire course called Mindset Reset. It's free, by the way. More than 400,000 people have taken it. It's 30 videos. If you want to check it out, you go to melrobbins.com/mindset reset, and we'll email you the workbook and you can watch all the videos for free. I'm not selling you anything. I'm a daytime talk show host, so I'm not selling you a course. But I'm telling you this because even the woman that created Mindset Reset, even the person that is training you on how you redirect your thoughts and do what I call think this and not that, my mind still jumps to the negative. My mind still argues against me, which is why one of the most important things that you need to do if you want to live a positive life, if you want a happy life, if you want your relationships to be stronger, if you want things to come more easily and naturally to you, you have to continually train your mind. So what did I do that morning? I basically was like, shut the up. And I sat down and I opened up my journal and I didn't listen to it. And sometimes that's the most powerful thing that you can do when your mind gets negative. You just tell it to shut up and you move on. I've heard a lot of experts say that fear isn't real. That is such a bunch of baloney. Fear is so real. In fact, there are probably things that you're afraid of doing right now in your life, in your relationships, at work. And the fact that you're afraid, that's robbing you of all of the experiences that you want to have in your life. I mean, if you're afraid to fly, that's going to limit your ability to travel and see the world or go visit friends. If you're afraid of public speaking, that's going to really limit your ability to express yourself and share your ideas. If you're afraid of talking to your boss or asking for a raise, that directly impacts how much money you make. Or what if you are dreaming of starting a business, or you've already started a new business, but you're afraid to talk to people and you're afraid to share your business with people? I mean, fear is something that stops us all. And that's why I'm here to talk to you, because it doesn't have to. Fear is real, but I am going to share a secret weapon that I have used for years to beat every single fear that used to stop me. Now, first, before we get into this secret weapon, I just want to cover a few facts about fear, what it is, what it isn't, and some things that you may not know about fear. So first thing, fear is a physical state in your body that is exactly the same as excitement. Let me say that again. Fear and excitement are the exact same physical state. Your heart races. You might sweat a little bit. You might feel tightening in your chest. You might feel a pit in your stomach. You have a surge of cortisol. It's basically the way that your body goes into a hyper-aware state because it's readying for action. Now, what's the difference between fear and excitement? Really simple. The only difference between fear and excitement is what your brain is doing as your body is all agitated. If you're excited, your brain's going, oh, wow, this is going to be so cool to ride this roller coaster. If you're afraid, your brain's going, no way. There's no way I'm doing that. This is dangerous. Get out of there. Don't do that. It's saying something different. So what's critical about understanding this is that we're going to use the fact that your mind is either working for you for excitement or against you with fear to your advantage. And I'll tell you about it in just a minute, how you're going to do that. Second thing I want you to understand is that you may have heard the advice, feel the fear and do it anyway. You may have heard the advice, oh, just try to calm down. Think positive thoughts. It doesn't work, does it? And there's a reason why it doesn't work. So let's go back to fact number one. When you're afraid, your body's in a state of arousal and agitation and your heart is racing and you're all like amped up and you're hyper aware of what's going on and you're freaking out a little bit. What is it like when you're calm? you just kind of chill, right? You got like this low arousal state. Very, very difficult to go from a state of agitation of being all jacked up and excited and weirded out and to a kind of state. It doesn't work. It's like trying to stop a train by throwing a boulder on the tracks. It's going to make the train jump off the tracks. It's going to cause a disaster. In fact, they've proven in research that when you try to ignore your fears, it actually makes them worse. And they've also proven in research that positive thinking alone also can make your fears worse. So, what do you do? What do you do when you're about to go talk to your boss and you feel afraid? What do you do when you have to get on a plane and you're actually terrified of flying? What do you do if you got to give a presentation and you are afraid of public speaking? Here's what you're going to do. You're going to use a strategy, the same one that I use, that has helped me beat every single fear and turned me into somebody that is terrific when it comes to a high-stress situation. This is how you do it. You're going to use my 5-second rule in combination with what I call an anchor thought, and that is going to reframe what your mind is doing so that your mind goes from feeling agitation and making you afraid to reframing it from agitation to excitement. It works like magic. Now, I have used this technique for years, literally for years. And one of the ways that I want to introduce you to it is I want to take you backstage. I want to take you backstage to a speech that I delivered this year. And what you're going to see is you're going to see me behind, the major set. I'm about to walk out. You can kind of hear the crowd roaring. My introductory video is playing. My body is in a state of arousal. I am literally, my heart is racing, my arms are sweating. It's like you're going to see this. I'm going to tell you about it. And you're going to watch me use this same technique I'm going to teach you to reframe my nerves into excitement. Check this out. All right, I'm about to go on stage. There are 7,000 people out there, and it's so exciting because what they don't know is they're about to learn the 5-second rule, and their lives will never be the same again. Now, I gotta tell you, my heart is racing. My armpits are sweating. I have the exact same physiological feeling as when I'm afraid, but I'm not afraid. I'm excited. Excitement and fear is the exact same thing in your body. It's just what your brain calls it. Here's a trick that's proven by science that I use every time I speak. When I start to sweat, when I start to have butterflies, when I start to have my heart race, I say, I'm excited. I'm excited to get out there. I'm excited to talk to these people. I'm excited to share the 5-second rule. And what that does is it sends a message to my brain that tells my brain why my body's all agitated and excited. And that way, I don't feel afraid. Remember, excitement and fear, exact same thing in your body. The only difference is what your brain calls it. Go get them. Now, I want to give you one more example, just to make sure that you really get how you can use this. So a lot of you have written to me about your fear of flying, and I can really relate to that fear because I used to have the exact same fear. But I use this same strategy to conquer it. Here's how you're going to do it. So first things first, if you've got to do something that really makes you nervous or that you're afraid to do, before you're about to do it, come up with an anchor thought. What's an anchor thought? Well, an anchor thought is something that's going to anchor you so that you don't escalate any situation into a full-blown panic attack or into a situation where you screw things up. It's a way for you to anchor yourself so you maintain control over what you're thinking and how you behave. So here's an example with flying. It's important when you're creating an anchor thought to pick something that is in the proper context of what you're afraid to do. So for flying, pick an anchor thought that has to do with the trip that you're taking. So if I'm boarding a plane to fly back home to Michigan, an anchor thought might be a picture in my mind of my mom and I walking on the shores of Lake Michigan where I grew up. That's a thought that makes me happy. It makes me excited. And it's also related to the trip that I'm taking. If you have a conversation that you need to have with your boss, pick an anchor thought about how you feel after having that conversation. Maybe it's you picking up the phone and calling somebody that you love and saying, oh my gosh, it went so well. Or, you walking out of the meeting and feeling like, yeah, I survived that conversation. I feel pretty good about myself. So now that you have your anchor thought, you're ready to beat the fear. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.